but nevertheless from my side I would like to thank some of my invited speakers who are kind enough to come, like Mr. Shriram and Mr. Chandrasekhar. Of course the sponsors anyway, they are supporting us. So it was a different presentations in the afternoon session on fertilizer and machine manufacturing. So please to ask questions. Okay.
I would like to ask questions to CLPA, Mitsubishi and CLPA group, because it is, so my first question will be that it is, since it is a Mitsubishi group, so whether you have, and it is CLPA technology, you have said that it is already in the field level and your controller level, control system level. Whether you have used this CLPA technology for your net mission diacesis, that means your MHI control system. If yes, then my next question will be, now you have gone to a joint venture with Hitachi system, Hitachi. So whether if you have already done it, so can I expect that that same thing will be extended for HIAX, so that just by modification of form factor of your controller module and your IO module, I can interchangeably use my modules between the MHI and HPE system? Thank you.
I think this question is a little bit difficult to answer. To be frank, we are, this CLPA is an organization which promotes this network. Of course, Mitsubishi Electric is one of the board of members. And when you are talking about Hitachi, we are talking about Mitsubishi Chemical Industries and Hitachi. They are associated with each other. So Mitsubishi Chemicals and Mitsubishi Electric, these are two separate entities. So I'm not sure about how really this association, because CLPA or any company is not directly producing any parts for maybe Hitachi controller or maybe some DCS or something like that. Yeah.
Your own control system. That is Mitsubishi control system we should expect from you, because this is a technology you are promoting, and
right.
You have said that in the worldwide there are so many sponsors are there, they are taking part and they are helping you to promote this CLPA technology. So why don't you first adopt it in your own control system? May not be Mitsubishi Chemical, but MHI system first. Okay, Hitachi may be the second step. That is what our expectation is.
Okay. It's really very difficult to answer, because Mitsubishi Electric, we have the process controllers, which are the technology is now pushing the DCS quite up. The PLC technology is getting advanced. So we have process CPUs where a lot of PIDs, and it's almost a semi-DCS, I can say, a mini DCS. And we have done some power plants as well as these things with the QPLC, which is the process controller. And the another question is that when we talk about MHI, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries is altogether different entity. So they use any controller as such. They are not bound to use Mitsubishi Electric controllers even in Japan as well as in worldwide. They have printing machine manufacture. They also do many, and they also have an association with L&T in Hazira. Their MHI and L&T Hazira, they are on Rockwell platform, frankly speaking. So it's totally different. But Mitsubishi Electric, we have the PLCs which are related with the process, and we are pushing the DCS technologies from the bottom, I can say.
I have a small question. We talked about big data. Now, to process this data, you need supercomputing or high performance computing. Can you throw some light on this? Or anyone?
I think so. Yeah, so from my understanding, the problem is how to create a model to analyze. So maybe so in detail, we have to create a model in a physical system. If you want to analyze so quality of data for flat panel display, which is a very so large size of display. And so in that case, so there are several directions. Maybe so in very detailed, for example, so when we want to simulate very in detail, we have to create a model for physics system. In such a case, I think we should use like a supercomputer. From my understanding, so now, I don't see a trend to use the supercomputer in cloud system. Yeah, so, yeah.
It's a great question. The perspective I'd like to add is data handling techniques have been around for quite a while, and again they are being refined as we speak. But just conceptually, the way to look at it is, let's assume, I'll use our industry's example. Let's assume that every second or every minute you're getting some data from the machines. One way of, let's say, running a shift report is to wait till the entire shift data comes in, then crunch the data, get a report in. The other way is, as and when each data point starts coming in, start compressing that, start building a report up. So the next data point that comes in only alters the perspective of the data. There's something called cubes and so many different techniques. But the fundamental aspect is, depending on the paradigm that you're looking at, data compression, data handling, data reporting techniques can be handled with relatively okay servers. I mean, it doesn't have to be a massively parallel supercomputer or anything like that yet.
Hello, this is a question for Mr. Otani. This is regarding an interesting perspective you have brought in with one-to-one marketing and original equipment OEE. So I just wanted to understand what is the and how do you relate it? I hope the question is clear.
Chandrasekhar?
Yeah. I think
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
You understood my question?
yeah. So yeah, certainly. So it's not related directly between one-to-one marketing and OEE. But so I think the trend is so we have to create the ecosystem for manufacturing. So maybe so in manufacturing industry we have a factory and we have also have logistics. Maybe in future, so maybe so a cars carrying our product has an IT system. Also, we have a factory which have also IT system. So everything maybe so supply chain system also to be optimized using the IT. So in such a scenario, Amazon like so one-to-one marketing system connected to the through the cloud system to the factory. So that's mean I mentioned.
This is a question on TPM track to Mr. Chandrasekhar. You presented 2 case studies, I think so, on the phenomenal improvement in the performance. I would like to know, was the benefit coming from the man productivity improvement or the machine productivity? Point number 1. And what were the challenges your company faced during the implementation of the system?
Are you from Bosch?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What we have found, I'll answer empirically because I really don't recall exactly what happened in Super Auto Forge or QS Talbros. We have this running on thousands of machines, so I don't recall. But empirically, what we have found is there are more than 600 unique reasons specific to shop floor that we have in our database. Why productivity is lost, or why a downtime is introduced, whether it's a major downtime or a minor downtime. Roughly 80% of that is all very low-hanging fruit. Meaning, if you simply know what is happening, the root cause can be found pretty simple. For example, let's assume that this is a real case study. There was a face grooving operation where the cycle time was increasing because they had put an optional stop. Because again, please excuse me if I'm going too deep. Because the chips were not breaking as part of the normal cycle. So what the operator has done, with his limited knowledge, he knows that I better stop the process, clean out the chips, and then restart the machining, which is normal way of doing business, right? Now, the moment they saw some of this analytics, they were able to say, "Hey, why is this happening today?" And then they said, they went to the root cause and said, it's because the coolant is not flushing at the right pressure. Now, why is that? Because that damn pipe has not been cleaned for a long time. Now, just something like that, if it had not been noticed, could have gone on for ever till such time rejection started to roll in. Now, this is just a very simple example. But like this, what we found empirically is 80% are low-hanging fruit. There are about 15% or so which are high-tech, feed, speed, tooling, this, that, machining, RPM, those kind of reasons. And perhaps a small percentage of that could be genuinely labor-related. Somebody doesn't want to work, somebody wants to fake working, whatever. This is in terms of the operational issue. A large amount of issues that we see is really in the middle management level, in terms of planning, getting the right whatever to go to the machine at the right time. It could be material, it could be the drawings, it could be the toolings, it could be whatever it is, or maybe training the operator well. That constitutes the non-operational aspects. So what we find is, if we can even relieve the pressure on those 80% of the issues, itself can see a dramatic rise in productivity. Now, there's always going to be the high-tech, sexy stuff, right, which everybody loves to sink their teeth into. But that really constitutes 15-20% on the shop floor. Did that answer your question?
I think I'll take a last question.
Challenge. Okay. The challenges are what you would expect with any new system that's being introduced. People, primarily you have to take the fear out of these systems, especially on shop floors. People, if they start thinking it is kind of a policing, you are never going to get buy-in, number one. Even in union shops, this has been successfully done. Incidentally, Bosch Nasik is a big user of this technology, and Bosch Gujarat somewhere. Okay. So one is the fear factor of introducing a new system that can be seen as policing. The second is more to deal with the people. Let's say you train somebody, and again, this is not as much an issue with a Bosch-like organization as it is with a lot of SMEs. You train somebody, the guy gets smart, and within 6 months he leaves. And when he leaves, to backfill that position takes another 3 or 4 months or whatever it is, by which time the system usage dies. Then to restart it back up requires more effort than the initial startup effort. These are some typical issues that we have seen. So the key is to make sure that this really becomes the DNA of the organization from day one, and there are trained POCs, point of contacts, who can champion this till it becomes a true DNA, and make some of these parameters KPIs for everybody, right from the operator to the CEO, as part of a balanced scorecard or whatever.
I cannot take more than a couple of questions. Two questions, please.
Only one question.
Last two questions. Sir.
Yeah, okay. This is to Mr. Dinesh Mungi. Sir, have you used your system anywhere in a chemical plant for runaway reactions? Because chemical thermal runaway reactions happens in seconds. a part of seconds, where your fast acting system can help to avoid the hazard. Have you used it? If yes, where?
Frankly, it's not been used, but this technology, what I was talking of ultra fast reaction, was just launched, and I think thanks for a very good application we could think of for such technology. We can really use these modules for such applications.
Last question, please.
My question is to Mr. Adani about the CC link. Yeah, here. Yeah. So you have presented CC link as a very fast and effective technology where it's for real-time applications it's very useful. My question here is that similar to a field bus, Profibus or foundation field bus, where field devices, the major advantage which is projected is the interoperability, where any field device I can replace and I can use the same bus. Whether with CC link can the control system and HMI interoperability can be done? Have you ever thought of this thing? Or in more precisely, if CC link is where in the OSI model does it fit in? So that whether this aspect has been considered. Using CC link as a standard protocol, whether interoperability of control system and HMI has been multiple vendors, I mean different vendors for control system and HMI. Has it been ever thought of, or your take on this using CC link?
Actually, this technology is made open, and many of the manufacturers are adopting this. If you talk about say the wall manufacturers, maybe SMC, Festo. So many of the people are going for this technology. Yes, in India Profibus is there for many years and it is known. So many of the people, and Modbus was there for quite, for energy meters and all these things, people typically talk about Modbus. But today this technology is getting picked up in Asian countries. There are many manufacturers in China, Korea, adopted this technology. So if there is a network of CC link, yes, if particular device is failed or maybe some you need to replace with something, it's possible, and we can have a mix of all those things. And plus, there are gateways are available. There are all types of gateways are available for connectivity of different networks to each other. You talk about HMS and all these people, any bus. So these are the gateways are available for making the networks more friendly to other existing networks or something like that.
But my precise question was, like if CC link is mapped only up to the network layer, maybe, then anyway, if two systems have to talk, okay, of different vendors, they have to have the application layer in between them. So if it is only the network layer, you cannot do it. But suppose if it maps at the application layer itself, like in case of field FF, it is mapped actually. So you can connect any device to any operator station and all. So up till that it is mapped or not actually, because otherwise then only you can do it actually.
Right. Right now the protocols and the technology is that way open, and it's possible to map because the device data finally is mapped into the master, and that is very much possible to map that device data into the master. So we have huge data possibility on CC link I field and CC link I control, where this data can be mapped from the sensor level up to the master level. It is possible.
Thank you, Sunil. I'd like to thank all the speakers and the delegates participating till now. I think we'll break for the day today, and I request all of you to be available tomorrow, and then please join the dinner and cocktails. Thank you.